Dan Joel from the Associated Press. I have a question for Captain and Mr. Churchfield. What's the biggest worry you have right now about the situation? Is there a possibility of breaking up? Is hull damage? What could you say?
The greatest worry I have is clearly safety. We have so many people involved in this response operation. We have air assets, we have afloat assets, we have people staging in different areas. It's maintaining that safety. We've been going on, this operation has been going on for days, as you're well aware, in very challenging conditions. But the fact that no one's been seriously injured, it says that shows the priority. So that would be my greatest safety.
So I would echo the captain's sentiments. Indeed, in the conditions we're working in and the fact that we're having to put people onto this vessel, the safety of our personnel is our biggest concern. I would absolutely endorse that view.
Yes, sir.
I'm Alan Bailey.
Who was your question directed to, please?
To the Coast Guard and to the incident technically. Yeah. What from this point? What work was involved and what time is likely to be involved in getting to a point where you have a plan and a decision on how to salvage this vessel?
So we are currently working in the assessment phase of this. We've got a salvage team on board currently working to make an assessment of the damage that Kulluk has sustained. And really, I really do not want to speculate as to what they're going to find and what the follow-up activities will be. So I really don't have a timeline to share with you at this moment. We're still really finishing off the assessment phase.
Yes.
Susana, Caldwell, Alaska Dispatch. Have you been able to inspect the hull any closer? I understand there were sort of some sucking noises and stuff that the team heard yesterday. Is there any sort of update on that?
Breathing. So I don't really want to go into the details because right now they're still being worked. But yesterday, the preliminary report that one of the vents they looked at, there was a breathing noise from it. But we've yet to ascertain or confirm whether that's a breach or just natural venting of the tank contents.
All right, can we go ahead and take one call from the phone, please?
Yes, question line of Mark Chediak, Bloomberg News. Please go ahead.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Still a little difficult hearing the speakers over the phone. Just if somebody could repeat the damage that so far has been assessed on the rig, and also any sort of timeline regarding when the rig might possibly be able might be towed away from the shoreline.
So indeed, my apologies that you couldn't hear me earlier on, but let me just summarize the findings from yesterday's assessment from the 5 salvage people who were on board Kulluk. The findings include some wave damage to the top sides of the vessel. A number of watertight doors have been breached, causing water damage inside. The team has secured some of those open hatches, and the emergency and service generators have been damaged. We are still in the assessment phase of this operation. We have the salvage team on board conducting assessments. So at this stage, I do not have a timeline to share with you because it's unclear on our path forward, and we will build that plan as the assessment data comes through.
One more call from the phone system,
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you. And our next question comes from the line of Martin Bowman with Fishermen in Seattle. Please go ahead.
Yeah, we are also having great difficulty hearing these remarks, and I'm wondering if the remarks by Sean Churchfield as well as Captain Miller could be put online since they appeared to have read them. My other question is, given the seriousness of this incident, why would Shell's own investigation of this not be made public along with the Coast Guard investigation? Thank you.
Okay, so I think the main point I'd like to make on the investigation is Shell will collaborate completely, collaborate completely with the Coast Guard and other investigations that are required.
if it wasn't clear, for the Coast Guard investigation, as I said, we're bringing up investigators from the Center of Excellence, and we have our investigators working that. And of course, the results of those findings will be made public.
And we will have both sets of remarks posted online for anybody who, on the phone system, who was not able to hear that. Okay, we'll go ahead and take a couple more from the room.
All right.
Please.
Okay, I'm in Channel 2. My question is for Mr. Churchfield. I've heard that this could have big impacts on the 2013 drilling season. When is the date by which you would need to have this rig out of there so that it wouldn't have an impact on the 2013 season? I'm sure you guys have some kind of, it has to be out of there by X date.
So I will defer that question because I'm really here to talk about our incident response. I would suggest to follow up that question and contact the Shell Public Affairs folks, if you wouldn't mind.
This question is for Dwayne, Natalie Travis of ABC Fox. And Dwayne, you said you represented the local communities around there. I was curious as to what the main concern was for the local communities.
Well, I represent, I work for the Kodiak Island Borough, which is like a county government for the lower 48 states, a regional government, and we have a unique relationship with our outlying communities. We have a lot of geographical area, but a relatively small population, and I think reaching out to the local community, putting the Unified Command in contact, making the resources of the Unified Command available to the community, bringing the concerns from the community back to the Unified Command, it helps because the Unified Command may not, coming into an incident like this, have a lot of local knowledge. So probably local knowledge is our biggest contribution in just being able to help them get in touch with the people and the resources that they need in the community and helping the community bring their concerns to the Unified Command.
So has there been one piece of local knowledge that's actually provided important help?
Well, initially, Unified Command had sent representatives down, particularly on the ground in the Kulluk. And from that point, they started making direct contacts with stakeholders in the community, particularly the fishing community, as I mentioned, native corporations, which are significant nearby landowners, people in the Old Harbor community, which is the closest affected community. And I think also the things that we've heard in talking to the communities, there are archaeological resources in the area and real culturally significant geographical places that need to be, that the responders need to be sensitive to. In addition, the culture of the community out there is very much subsistence-based, and so there's a lot of concern how this could disrupt that subsistence lifestyle, and so we've conveyed those concerns, and I think every effort's being made to be sensitive to that and to try to mitigate anything that would impact that.
Doing Sacrifice Rock.
I believe you're talking about Refuge Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is probably the most culturally significant place for the Old Harbor community. Did you want me to go into kind of the history of that? It really is, I don't know that that's really response related, but there was a massacre of Old Harbor natives when the Russian colonization of Kodiak had occurred. I don't know all of the historical significance, or excuse me, all the details, but that was a place where they typically would seek refuge when they were in conflict with other native communities, but with the firearms of the Russian-American company to deal with, it was a pretty unfair situation, but it is something that's been passed down through oral tradition for many generations. Only in the past 10 years has archaeological evidence been found to validate the exact location of this place and to document that. So.
yes, about with extreme cultural significance, I assume.
Absolutely.
And if there is a breach of the fuel, do you have a sense, how far is the ship from Refuge Rock? And would currents carry fuel to Refuge Rock? Could you say?
I don't believe so, because that's back up, that's up shore a little ways, you know, I believe that locate, I don't want to get too specific on locations there, to be honest with you. Most of the time this information is not too public, but I believe from the rig to this location is within a mile. But it's protected from the water's edge there. It's way past the high tide line. Okay?
Tim Bradley, Journal of Commerce. This is for either Shell or the petroleum company. Question about the hull thickness. I understand, I have heard that the outer hull is how many inches thick? 3 inches thick?
I would have to get our naval architect to verify the exact thickness of the outer hull.
It is a fixed thickness.
It is a well-designed vessel. And again, it would have to refer to our technical experts to get the exact thickness. So we can give that to these for future reference for you. Yes, sir.
Let's take another question from the phone, please.
Line James Brooks with Kodiak Daily Mirror. Please go ahead.
Yes, this question is for the captain. Right now, we have Coast Guard Air Station and Coast Guard Base Kodiak operating at a fairly high tempo. At the same time, we've got the start of the New Year's fishing season, and the Coast Guard normally forward deploys helicopters to cover crab fishing in the Bering Sea and basically provide search and rescue coverage around Kodiak. Is this going to be affected with the response for the Kulluk? Are you going to have to bring in additional Coast Guard resources to maintain the level of coverage that we expect here?
As far as, Coast Guard operations, this has been a very big lift for the Coast Guard. We are putting all the assets, all the personnel that we can towards the response of the Kulluk. But we have a commitment and an obligation to the people of Alaska. So we are not the only air assets, and maybe that's a little bit misleading. A lot of the briefs are telling about the Coast Guard 60s or the 65s that we're using, and certainly we are. But the responsible Shell is also has been using and chartering various air assets. So that is how we're offsetting. We have to maintain the Coast Guard, our assets for search and rescue and other needs. So it's a balance, and I will say it is definitely a heavy lift for our crews, but it is not beyond what we can do safely and what we can manage.
Mackenzie from GQ. Question about the assets that have been deployed for spill response and any other sort of recovery. How many of those were Shell's pre-existing response units, and how many are new, and how many of them are they're in total or en route? And it's for Mr. Churchfield or Captain Mailer.
So I think the best thing to do would be to actually get these folks to give you the full list of vessels rather than testing mine.
Approximations are okay.
But what we have done, certainly from the Shell side, we had the oil spill response assets for the drilling season, essentially in storage in Seward, and we are mobilizing those out. We have also contracted other resources in providing additional spill response capability. So the Tug Alert has oil spill response capability, and there are, so we are providing both what we have and what we're able to contract in addition.
And only the alert is there now, but the rest are still en route?
No, so the alert is on station, the Perseverance is on station, and the Nanook has been back to Seward to collect more equipment and is back en route to the sea. So I should also say we also have, as Steve said, we're also forward deploying other non-vessel based oil spill response equipment.
One more question from the phone, please.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Henry Mountain with the New York Times. Please go ahead.
Hi. Can you clarify one thing for me? That you have salvage teams on the
fact that you had damage to the electrical transmission, that's going to affect the plan for salvaging, right?
So thank you for the question. I can confirm that yesterday we had a team of 5 salvors on board, and we have lifted a team on again today. We had 6 people on this morning, and we were lifting another 6 on. But yes, the damage to the electrical systems mean the salvage teams will have to plan around either bringing more generators in or working without power on the rig.
Yeah, Rich Mauer, Anchorage Daily News, again, related to that. Does that mean that that emergency pumps would not be able to be used that are on board the ship right now? And also, how did on the Kulluk right now, how did the hatches become unsealed? Didn't the crew seal the hatches when they left? Do you know? Do you have a report on that? Or maybe Noble could tell us that? Didn't the crew seal the hatches when they were before they were airlifted up?
Your first question was relative to power to the pumps?
Correct.
That's really a salvager question as to how they would choose to put power to pumps and whether or not there's auxiliary power available with the vessel for them to use. Okay. The crew, I have not personally interviewed the entire crew, and we haven't conducted a thorough investigation as of yet, as you know. That's been discussed 2 or 3 times. So the results of the hatches and what caused it will have to be determined with the survey. You know, what damage to the hatches were there, etc.
All right, I have time for one more question from the room and one more from the phones. Sir, I don't believe you've had the opportunity.
Okay, I'm Steve Offrecht from What Do I Know blog. The gentleman from Kodiak suggested that some things are made public and some things are not. What are your criteria for what you're going to release to the public and what you're not?
What does that mean? With
No, from Kodiak.
properties?
Well, I don't know. I've only been here on scene with the command post for 24 hours. Prior to that, we were in communication by conference call. I don't know exactly what protocol there is for releasing of information, but I believe the Unified Command has a decision-making process that involves all of the members. And so I think that would probably not be a decision that I would make, but that would be arrived at by the Unified Command collectively. So.
Okay, I mentioned you because you mentioned it, but I was wondering perhaps Captain Mailer can address that.
So the question is, what information is the Unified Command releasing? And this is...
And not releasing.
And not releasing. We are very careful not to release information that's not validated. It's such a dynamic response with a lot of different information, and certainly you understand in the last couple of days alone, we have to be very mindful that when we stand up here, we put out a press release, we talk to you, that we have the latest information. And if it's coming from different sources and we're unable to validate it, and we can't look at each other and say, yes, that is accurate, then we have to be very careful before we move forward and do it. So that's really the criteria. It's nothing short of that. There is no standard operating procedures that this will be released and this won't. I assure you. It is this accurate? Is this the correct information? And being very careful before we put it out that the right people, in other words, how many people were on board, we talk to the folks and validate what we have, and then the information comes out.
All right, one more question from the phone, please.
David Ivanovich with Argus Media. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for doing this call today. Considering the damage that you have already seen, can you give us an overall assessment or an overall sense of how severe the damage is to the Kulluk? I mean, I can't tell from what you told us whether the vessel's actually seaworthy or not. Can you give us an overall sense?
So the stage that we are at the moment is this is the second day we've had the salvage teams on board, and we are still gathering the data from the damage assessment to the Kulluk. At this stage, I do not have a completed assessment to pass back to you.
Okay, that is all we have time for right now. If you have additional questions, please get with a member of the Joint Information Center. We'll do our best to get you the specific questions that you have to answer. Thank you very much for coming. And again, if you have additional questions, please find a member of the Joint Information Center, and they'll be happy to help you.
Amy, do you anticipate another one of these today, or is this going to be it?
As far as a press briefing, this will be the only one. Yes, sir.